A Roman soldier's salary was paid in salt. That's not a metaphor, it's literally where the word salary comes from. And it tells you something profound about how economies work. We think of value as fixed, universal, obvious. Gold is precious. Salt is salt. But for most of human history, that equation was completely reversed. Understanding why forces us to rethink what valuable actually means. So let's start with the basic question. What made salt so desperately needed that entire civilizations organized themselves around controlling it? Before refrigeration existed, and we're talking thousands of years before, salt was the only reliable way to preserve meat and fish through winter. You couldn't just hunt in autumn and eat fresh for months. Without salt, you starved. With it, your family survived. That's not luxury, that's survival. But survival goods are only valuable if they are scarce. So the next question becomes, how scarce was salt really? Salt isn't rare in nature. Oceans are full of it. Mineral deposits exist underground across continents. But extracting salt, actually getting it out of water or rock in usable quantities, required labor, time, and infrastructure. You needed salt pans, evaporation beds, mining equipment, and people to work them. That infrastructure was expensive to build and control. Whoever controlled the salt-producing regions controlled a choke point. And choke points are where wealth concentrates. In ancient Rome, the Via Salaria, the Salt Road, was one of the empire's most strategically important routes. It ran from the salt marshes near the Tiber River straight into the city. Control that road, control Rome's food security. Governments taxed salt heavily because they knew people had no choice but to pay. It was the original monopoly. This raises another question. If salt was so valuable, why didn't everyone just make their own? Geography, you needed access to either the ocean or salt deposits. Landlocked regions were at a disadvantage. You also needed climate, consistent sun, and low rainfall to evaporate seawater efficiently, and you needed the capital to build extraction infrastructure. Most people had none of these things, so they traded for salt instead. Medieval Europe organized itself around this scarcity. Cities built near salt sources became wealthy trading hubs. Venice, Genoa, and the Hanseatic League all built their economic power partly on controlling salt trade routes. They weren't just merchants, they were gatekeepers. And this brings us to the question of taxation. Why did salt become the most heavily taxed commodity in pre-modern Europe? Because governments understood economics better than we give them credit for. They knew salt had inelastic demand, people needed it regardless of price. Demand doesn't drop if you tax it, so they taxed it ruthlessly. France's Gabelle, a salt tax that lasted centuries, was one reason peasants resented the monarchy so intensely that it contributed to revolutionary sentiment. Salt taxes weren't just annoying, they were economically destabilizing. Poor people spent a larger percentage of income on salt than wealthy people. It was a regressive tax that deepened inequality. So when did salt stop being precious? When did it become cheap? The Industrial Revolution. Mechanical mining, steam-powered pumps, and industrial evaporation made extraction exponentially cheaper and faster. Suddenly, salt could be produced at scale by anyone with capital and technology. The scarcity disappeared, and with it, the value evaporated. By the 1800s, salt was cheap. By the 1900s, it was nearly worthless by weight. The commodity that once rivaled gold in value became something you bought for pennies at any grocery store. But here's what's remarkable. The Roman soldiers who were paid in salt didn't think they were getting shortchanged. To them, salt asterisk was asterisk wealth. Value isn't objective. It's determined by scarcity, demand, and the infrastructure required to produce something. Change those variables and value collapses overnight. That's why salt was once worth more than gold, not because it was inherently rarer or more beautiful, but because it solved a problem that mattered more than anything else: survival. And whoever controlled the solution controlled the economy. Understanding that teaches you something crucial about how value works in any era, including ours. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. Subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into the hidden economics reshaping the things you buy and the world you live in. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.